Hey, good morning. Welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, it's not good news, is it, about the people that were kidnapped in Mindanao? Mindanao is always the place that people cite as not being safe because of the elements that live there and apparently are thriving there. So it brings into sharp focus what everybody thinks of as reality being real. So what is the reality? The reality for some will be that the entire Philippines are not safe to live in. Then there will be those who probably will accuse me of, oh yeah, well, you're very brave now, but wait till you get kidnapped. Yes, there would be some sense in that, I suppose. If I am to wait for anything, it would be kidnapping, wouldn't it? I just read a post that attracted quite a few expats to comment on it, and the post was about the fact that the Philippines is not paradise. It's not paradise. Well, I looked it up in the dictionary. This is Webster's New Dictionary. And I looked up paradise. So, if we're going to say whether the Philippines is paradise or it's not paradise, let's have a look at what paradise is supposed to be. Where is it? Paradise. The Garden of Eden, okay? Heaven. And then the one that makes the most sense is any place or state of great happiness. Okay, so the person who said the Garden of Eden, it is not. The paradise, it is not. And to reinforce that argument, they said you've only got to look at the incredible hardship, and I'm not getting this word for word, of course, but essentially this was the message. You only have to look at the incredible poverty, hardship, suffering in the Philippines to conclude that it is not paradise. Now the thing is that it's long been a great profound question of what is paradise or not, and the dictionary definition of a state or place of great happiness is the one that I would choose to go with. Now, what makes me happy is probably not what makes you happy. You may consider that driving around in a Porsche is happiness. That might seem like paradise to you. It may be that you like white beaches. It may be that you like to live in the mountains. It might be that you like to bake in the sun or ski in the snow. And we're all different, and I cannot impose my sense of paradise on you any more than you can impose it on me, or we can impose it on anyone. For anybody who criticizes the Philippines as being this terrible place of poverty and suffering, let me just remind you of this. Probably 80 to 90%, and I'm guessing on this just on the kind of letters that I get, 80 or probably 90% or more, and of course I'm making a video so the dogs have to join in. This 90% of OFWs, people who have gone abroad to earn a living, to help their families here, would come back in a heartbeat to their dirt floor nipa huts and simple living. They would come back if they could afford to. And that's the vast majority of the people. So, is it paradise? Well, it must be some kind of paradise for them. Now, I just finish on this because this wasn't really the subject of this talk. The person who posted this denial of any kind of paradise within this poverty-stricken, terrible place they're calling the Philippines, their profile picture was of a child with an extreme hair lip. No lip here at all. And that was their idea of putting over what the Philippines is about. Ironically, the actual picture of that little kid was a happy face, albeit no one wants to have a cleft palate, right? But there was a man who started Medical Missions Matters, Larry Malley, who I've talked about before, a real American hero, a cop from, I think, New York or New York State, who used to put the bad guys behind bars and did that for about 30 years. He came over here and he started Medical Mission Matters, and he helped hundreds of children who had the cleft palate, and he did that by getting volunteers of skilled surgeons to come and do over a period of a few days in a rented, not actually rented, in a part of a hospital. Ubay was the last one that we met. That was where we first met him and last saw him, and we actually did a video on one of the surgeons actually doing an operation for cleft palate. He did incredible work, and he died. Now, he didn't die a hero's death. He died when he was knocked down by a tricycle. So, you know, you take your choice and you do the deal. Now, whenever anybody talks to me about living in fear, I go back and I look at my other Bible, which is Catch 22, written by Joseph Heller. If you haven't read this book, then you are sadly missing an important part of your education. Joseph Heller, Catch 22. And in this book, one of his main characters is Yossarian, and he's talking to another character, Clevenger. And they're talking about the fact that Yossarian is afraid of dying, and Clevenger is saying, why are you? And he said, because everybody's trying to kill me. I said, you're just afraid. This is what he's afraid of. And I actually have this. If you look, I don't know whether you can see this, but I actually have the part marked in biro in my book, because I read this from time to time, and boy, if you're going to live in fear, there's a lot for you to do and a lot for you to learn. So, what is there to be afraid of? There were bartenders, bricklayers and bus conductors all over the world who wanted him dead. Landlords and tenants, traitors and patriots, lynchers, leeches and lackeys, and they were all out to bump him off. There was the secret Snowden that had spilled to him on the mission to Avignon when they were out to get him. Snowden was a man who died in an aeroplane. This is about the war. And Snowden had spilled it all over the back of the plane. That was his guts. There were lymph glands that might do him in. There were kidneys, nerve sheaths and corpuscles. There were tumours of the brain. There was Hodgkin's disease, leukemia, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. There were fertile red meadows of epithelial tissue to catch and coddle a cancer cell. There were diseases of the skin, diseases of the bone, diseases of the lung, diseases of the stomach, diseases of the heart, blood and arteries. There were diseases of the head, diseases of the neck, diseases of the chest, diseases of the feet, There were billions of conscientious blood body cells oxidating away day and night like dumb animals at their complicated job of keeping him alive and healthy. And everyone was a potential traitor and a foe. There were so many diseases that it took a truly diseased mind to even think about them, as often as he and Hungry Joe did. Hungry Joe, another character in the book, collected lists of fatal diseases and arranged them in alphabetical order so that he could put his finger without delay on any one he wanted to worry about. He grew very upset whenever he misplaced some, or when he could not add to his list, and he would go rushing in a cold sweat to Dr. Nika for help. You don't have to be a hero, but you have to understand that there are too many things to fear to actually stop during the day of living your life to actually worry about. You cannot do it. There just isn't time. Now, I've been very lucky. I had a brother who was not very lucky. My brother lived a life of some risk. He smoked cigarettes and he drank. He liked to have a beer. He keeled over somewhere in the street in Manchester, and he died, as they always say, that cliche, he was dead before he hit the ground. He died at the age of something like 52. I miss my brother tremendously. Now, I'm 80 years old, looking forward to my next birthday of 81. Believe me, there are so many things for me to worry about. Am I going to worry about blood pressure? Am I going to worry about catching something that will give me, I don't know, all of these things that Yossarian in Catch-22 gave me to worry about? I could be eating too much salt, could be taking in too much sugar, because that's for cancer cells. The cancer cells absolutely love sugar, you know, which is unfortunately because I love it too. The chocolate, I love chocolate. I love all kinds of things which could potentially kill me tomorrow. How can I worry about them all? How can I worry that I'll go down the street and that anything will happen to me? I have to negotiate 6 or 7 badly made concrete steps that are all different. They're different in the tread and they're different in the height. And they're not easy to negotiate. And I could fall, break a hip, have a... I haven't got time to list all of them. And all of you people who are being set into fear by the fact that a couple who chose to live a high-profile life owning a resort where people would go and admire the living that they have, they were kidnapped. Now, what can you say? Did they lead a life that would invite a kidnapping? Did they? Well, maybe they did. It depends on you as to whether you think that that would be true. It just so happens that I heard that these people are very good in their community. They're helpers. So wouldn't you think that no one will touch them because they're helping Filipinos? That nobody will... It's like a quicksand. You know, you step in one place and you think you're going to be okay, and you're not. You're going to sink up to your knee. There's so much. What should we do? Well, let's go back to good old safe USA. Or let's go back... Let's try to live in Australia because they're safe in Australia, aren't they? Actually, I don't think that they are. Maybe we can go and be safe in the UK. Apparently not. Out there, if you get in the underground, you might get blown up. There are shootings, stabbings, kidnappings everywhere that you go. Wasn't the UK, wasn't the US the place where somebody with a nut loose decided that the best thing that they could do with all the gun collection that they had was to go around and shoot a load of school children? And is this the norm? The trouble is that when anything like this happens, everybody goes into the fetal position, worrying about, is it going to happen to them? And it doesn't make sense. Right now, if you take a plane anywhere in the world, from anywhere to anywhere, unless you're getting into a biplane to take a sightseeing tour around Florida, which I did actually with my son Luke for his 21st birthday. We went in a biplane, an old biplane made of wood and covered in canvas and dope. No, not that kind of dope. And that's what we did. We did a half-hour trip looking out over what had been Florida, that had just been ruined by a hurricane. You cannot find any way to deal with the fear that these things instill. Look at 9/11. We've just celebrated, if that's the word, we just celebrated 9/11 as happening and being a force for change. Yes, it's a force for change. Somewhere you have to take your shoes off when you get on a plane. You cannot take, well, I actually took something like a nail clipper and had to leave it behind. You can't take liquid on there. You can't, there's so many things. Just in that one act of violence, which is still under review and speculation as to who did what, that has changed the world, because the world went into fear about that happening again. So, where did fear get us into there? So, I'm not saying that if you want to go to Mindanao, then bloody well go to Mindanao. Don't let anybody scare you about doing that. I'm not saying that. When I was in LA, I was advised, I said, you know, I'd really like to see Harlem. No, that's not a good idea. Because if you're driving around Harlem with several white faces in the car, people don't like to be looked at in moments of hardship, and you might have an adverse reaction to your face looking out of that car. I didn't do that. I didn't put myself at risk by going into something which was obviously laden with risks. Now, I heard a long time ago that Mindanao was a point that unless you went to somewhere like Davao, which had that man that is currently the president of the Philippines, and being criticized because he's killing or otherwise dealing with drug addicts and drug abusers, servers, dealers, and he was for, I think it 10 years or 20 years. I'm no oracle when it comes to these things, but he said when I went to Davao and I saw a big poster, and it was of President Duterte, and he was saying, "Not on my watch," and he made Davao safe, to the point that he used to drive his motorcycle around Davao. So, you want to be scared, you will have so much material to help you in that. Or you can say, well, several things that may happen. I may fall down those stairs that are waiting for me outside, break a hip, break a head, lose my life. I may do anything. I may crash my car. I may be hit like my hero Larry Malley. I may be hit as I cross the road by a speeding tricycle doing 25 kilometers an hour and be killed where I fall. And I may be like my brother, I may be dead before I hit the ground. All of this information is just simply not usable. You take your chances on your judgment of where the place is safe, and then nothing else to do but just get on with living. And maybe I'm looking at the world through rose-colored glasses and should be in the fetal position myself, because apparently that's the safe place to be. Don't go out, stay in the fetal position, put bars on the window, buy a gun, all of those things which are just being realistic. I don't think so. Thanks for listening. Bye for now. And my prayers go out to that couple who are in a very difficult situation at the moment, and I think everybody would join me in that prayer. Bye for now.